because I'm simple too and all that good stuff, but there comes a time where you've got to start digging a little deeper and getting into some things. And if you're still trying to learn John 3:16 and you've been saved 10 years, I'm praying for you. But sometimes you better start digging deeper, because you've got to understand that it's the root, it's the deep things in your life that will keep you rooted and grounded and built up and flourishing. It says that if you are planted in the courts of God's house, that you're flourished in his courts. And it's important because everybody wants to grow. We all want to blossom. We all want to bloom and all that good stuff and produce and have fruit for our efforts. But we have to understand that you can't produce anything if you're not planted in anything. And I wish I had some people tonight that could go home and tell a neighbor, you better get planted, because I'm planted, I'm here, I'm growing, I'm moving, I'm active, I'm not dying, I'm not drying up, and I want you to do the very same thing. As I began to think about this, I thought about John chapter 15, verse 1. Let's read this together. This is amplified because I like the way that it said it. John 15, verse 1. It reads to us something like this tonight. Hallelujah. By saying, I am the true vine. Whoa, what did it say? I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Verse 2 now tells us our role. We're not the vine, but this is our role. Verse 2 says it like this, that every branch that's in me that beareth fruit. All we really need to know is every branch that's in him. In other words, what that's saying to you and I tonight is that we're the branches, and guess what he is? He's the vine. Now, that wasn't good enough for me, so I had to do a little more reading. When we say vine, it's actually talking about he is the root, source, and supply, right? So if we're talking about being a palm tree, let me just go ahead and take the pressure off of you and let you understand is that if we're supposed to be like the palm tree, it says that God would be our root. Now, I just told you some things about the root and how it's tenacious and that it doesn't stop digging until it finds a substance to sustain the tree. And I just wish I had somebody who knew what it was like to have God just dig around in your stuff until he could find something to grab you and hold on to you, because in essence, it's God that is the root. And we said and we talked about that the root is what made the tree stable. In other words, it's God that makes us stable. It's not in how much we show up at church and how many gold stars we get beside our attendance record for service on Sunday mornings and all that good stuff, but it's the fact, are we connected to God? Do we have the life source of the vine connected to us that causes the nutrients that it draws in to support us, because we are the branches, which dictates that our position and our job as branches is to produce something. God is the one that will keep us grounded and rooted in him. He's the one that will supply the food and keep us going, but we've got to produce something. Is there anybody with me tonight? Did we grab that yet? Because it's so important to understand that God will not stop digging. He doesn't care how far he's got to go down to find something to feed you with. That's why you can come to church and leave unfulfilled. I said it. That's why you can be in a worship service and not feel nothing, because it's not about the church that feeds you and supplies you and nourishes you, but it's the root. And guess what the root is? It's God. It's God. He's the one. He's the only one that can be, you can be driving down the road in your car with no music and the presence of God fill your car for whatever reason, and it wasn't connected to I worship you because you're holy. I worship you for who you are. Because of who you are, I give you glory. It wasn't connected to a song or rhythm or music. There was nothing going on, but it's because your root is connected to the one that draws in the protein. Now, we use these other things to supplement that and build that up. I'm not trying to push those things down, because everybody knows I love a little music myself, and I love some church. I've been here my whole life and all that good stuff. But I want us to understand and never get it mixed up, never get it twisted, to think that this is the end result, because this place is not what will keep you rooted. God is the one that will keep you rooted. Are you with me? Okay. We got that down. We're talking about how a palm tree's not easily uprooted and all those good things. And then we started talking about how that he is the vine and how he's the one that provides the stability. And then we have to jump into 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 58, which begins to give us just a little bit of a commandment as it's talking about it. And it says, therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. Now, we got the first part down. Why? Because we're connected to God. We're steadfast, we're stable, we're unmovable, but that's a problem. Because if you're so steadfast and unstable and unmovable that you can't work for God, then we've got a problem. Because remember, you are the branch. And for whatever reason, somehow, and I'm not saying that it's by indiscretion of ministry and all that good stuff, but I want you to understand that we've really developed a group of people that's been so steadfast and so stable that on Sunday mornings their mentality is, move me if you can, because I shall not be moved. And somehow we forgot about, through the process, God's the one that made us stable, but he did that for a reason. It's not for us to just sit here like a wooden Indian. But it's because he desires that we abound in working for him, that we produce something. Remember, John 15:2 said we are the branches, which means he's the root, we're the branches. We've got to have something to show for our labor. We've got to have some type. Let me just put it this way. Let's just get all churchy. Can we do that? We should get some people saved every now and then. We should invite somebody to church because after all, God, he's the one that's kept us in our right mind. Why can't we help share somebody else how that God's kept us in our right mind and he can get them in their right mind too? In other words, if we're not producing anything, it could be that there's a breach in the communication between our spirit and our fleshly nature, and that somehow that we're getting everything mixed up and thinking that it's about us. When in reality, it's not about us, but it's about Jesus. And through the process, God says, I made you stable. I made you unmovable, not so that you could come and sit in one place your whole life and say, look how big and how tall and how strong that I've grown. But I made you that way so that you could produce something. And as you're producing, you don't have to worry about your leaf withering and things fading and not getting fed. But let me try it this way. That I made you stable so that you could help somebody else buy some groceries. Because you know I'm always going to take care of your groceries. And I made you this way so that you can give an encouraging word to somebody else. Because I will always send somebody to encourage you. And even if nobody comes, you still have the ability to encourage yourself, because why? I am the vine. I'm the one that digs deep, and I won't stop digging until I find something to keep you sustained. So that's why if your interest changed this year, I'm the vine. I'm going to keep on digging down till I find something else that I can find that you can grab onto and like and get planted and stay connected with the thing. But somewhere through the line, we've got to realize it's not just about being stable and steadfast. And, okay, let me try it this way. I know I'm going to get in trouble. It's not just about economic stimulus and everybody going through the motions and getting checks and being stable financially if you're not doing nothing with it. In other words, why would God really need to bless you and keep you if you're not going to do anything with the things that he's keeping you here for? In other words, we might as well all just hold our breath for about 3.5 minutes till oxygen stops going to our brain and we pass out and go on up to glory and all that good stuff. But the reason that we're here and our lungs are still working, it must mean because we have a purpose. Can I just get somebody to say amen if you're halfway? Just a little bit agree with me, all right? In other words, God has got something for us to do in being here. And it's so important that we understand that. Secondly, we're going to tie all this two together. You remember the parable about the two houses, and one, the foundation was built upon the rock, the other was upon the sand, and by a natural standpoint, the sand was the nicer one because it was close to the water and close to the beach and all that good stuff, and the foundations and where they were built really didn't matter until a storm came, right? And when the storm came, it changed everything because the one built up on the rock is the only one that stood. In other words, on the outside, you may see trees that look nicer than the palm tree, that may have better texture, because if you've ever touched the palm tree, the texture is not very nice. I like the bark and things of the oak tree and all those other kinds of trees and seeing how it works. There's other trees that's more beautiful and flamboyant, but in reality, those trees are the ones when you see the hurricane gale force winds coming through on TV, those are the ones that on top of the houses and on the cars. Why? Because they were real tall and big and bad and looked like they had it together on the outside, but they had no substance on the inside. And because of that, they fell over. And I've heard it said, I don't know if it's true, but the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Are you with me tonight? So in other words, I don't want us to be so concerned and being the biggest, baddest, most beautiful place and having ministry together where we do it better than everybody else. If we don't have anything internally, I don't care how tall we get or how wide we get, we've got to get to the place where we understand that the power comes from the root. And we're only going to have fruit if it's in the root. Okay. I said all that to say this. Point number 2. You can cut a palm tree on the outside, but you can't kill it that way. Which totally contradicts anything about ordinary trees. Because as you can take your knife and peel the bark all the way around the oak tree, the pine tree, whatever other kind of tree, and what will happen is over time that tree will begin to die a low, slow death. Because the bark is not only a protective layer for it, but in the bark is also a vein system that causes the sap to flow through the tree. And it won't take very long before that tree falls over. Are you with me? What that tells me is that the righteous are like the palm tree. In other words, you can't really kill us by affecting the thing on the outside, because it's not the outer parts that protect us. There's an inner core called our spirit that keeps us flowing for the word and for the life source, and it keeps us from not being able to be tackled down. So let me try it like this. In other words, the enemy can cut you. He can scar you. He can take away from you on the outside, but he can't understand why you won't fall over whenever he takes everything away externally what he doesn't realize is that your help doesn't come from the things on the outside, but your help comes from on the inside, because greater is